Welcome back, yos. It is Championship Racing once again here at SARCO. This is round 5 of our GTE Open Class Open Setup Championship. We have a 10-minute qualifying that determines the starting lineup for our 40-minute race. The Dupe and Ronaldo are out this evening, but we do have a new international that joins us from Australia. Welcome OGT, also known as Ben. Guys, sit back and enjoy the highlights of Tier 1 race number 5. So let's take a look at the starting lineup for this race here at Watkins Glen. Marius, he goes fastest, out qualifying Jakes by 0.006 of a second. We move to row number 2 and Jacques Racing. He finds his pace again and he puts himself third. Next to him is Theo. Theo doing really well in this championship so far. Theo puts himself fourth on the grid. We then move back to row number 3 and Christopher having a little bit of a ride and drive. He finds himself alongside Ashley. Ashley also finding some great pace in this championship thus far. Moving back to row number 4, and in the canary yellow Ford, that is Ross. Ross is 7th, and alongside him is Durkee in the white and blue striped Ford GT. Moving on, and we have a Ben, newcomer to the series. He puts himself in 9th place, and he's alongside Dylan. Dylan not being able to find that pace and puts himself 10th on the grid. We then move back to row number 6, and in 11th place, that is Mal Jacques. Jacques finding himself 11th, and just next to him we have Shane. Shane qualifying in 12th place in the black and silver for GT. 13th place, that goes to Stephen, and Marshall, he'll round up the grid with 14 drivers. And don't forget, guys, this series is currently brought to you by Mettlestate and Thrustmaster. Check out their website for more. All the details are in the description below. So while we are waiting for the green lights, it is green light to wheel racing, and that was Ross flying through the front there. Must have had some sort of jump start. Definitely going to have a drive-through penalty, but that is Jake's trying to go around the outside of Marius, but Marius is secure in that position. But we have a Ross that's actually leading with Marius, then Jakes, Jacques Racing, Christopher, and that was Theo in the Porsche, bringing up the first 6 places. I do want to go back and see what Ross was doing, and you can see just before that replay is going, Ross is gone. You can see the car had started before anybody else. I had to just come further back. You can see Jacques being absolutely swamped here by Marshall and Stephen. Both drivers having a little bit of argy-bargy with each other, but now going into turn number 1, a little touch there between Ben and Marshall. That sends Marshall wide, but as Ben starts exiting out, a little contact between himself and Shane, nearly sending Ben over. Had to be very careful how I said that. So back to the front, and your eyes are not deceiving you. That is the canary yellow Ford GT of Ross, leading this race by hook or by crook. But that is a Ross ahead. Then we have Marius, Jakes, that was a Jacques Racing, Christopher, then Theo. The drivers coming down turn number 6. We pick up the action with Christopher going a little bit wide. That's allowed Dylan to get past, Stephen to get past. Now that's Mal Jacques on his outside. Coming into turn number 7. Then making their way back up the hill towards turn number 8. Jacques has a little look to the inside, but not close enough to make an attack. So you'll have to tuck back in behind him. A race leader, Ross, will lead the guys coming through turn number 10. Well, that was Jacques Racing going a little bit wide. That's Ross now going into the pits. Let's just bring up the current positions. And you can see Ross starting to drop down that order. And if I'm not mistaken, he's going to be rejoining this race right at the back. So we follow Marius coming up through turn number 4, down the back straight. But I want to jump back. Let's see what's happening in the middle of the field. We'll chase Stephen. He's got Jacques. That's Mal Jacques just behind him. That's Shane in the background as they come through the inner loop. Back on the power. Well, that Stephen lost the rear. He's spun it around. Stephen are trying to rejoin, back on the power too soon. So Mal Jacques starting to close down Ashley. They're now going through turn number 6, back up the hill towards the hill, turn number 8. Dylan starting to open a little gap ahead of him, between himself and Ashley. And Jacques not being able to find a way around Ashley just yet, but he's definitely keeping that pressure on him. Jump back to the race leader. Marius will cross the line with Jakes right behind him. We can look at the current positions. So Marius leads with Jake seconds. Christopher, he's in 3rd place with Jacques racing in 4th. Theo, he's in 5th place. Durkee finds himself in 6th with Dylan in 7th. Ashley, he's in 8th with Mal Jacques in 9th. Shane, he's in 10th place with Marshall 11th. Ben is in 12th place with Ross down in 13th and Stephen in 14th position. Theo making a move to the inside, but Christopher is able to get in front of him, going through the inner loop. Theo taking a much tighter line through the outer loop. Now they head back down the hill towards the chute. Very tricky corner, it's very easy to lock up those brakes. See Dylan starting to open his gap, trying to get himself as close to Durkee as possible. But Durkee now starting to put that pressure on Theo. So Theo's going to have to start finding that pace now, whilst Durkee's going to be a next contender looking for Theo's position. Durkee just sizing up Theo, looking for that opportunity, with Christopher starting to move that Corvette further and further away. Oh, Durkee's hit the outside wall coming out of turn number 9. So that's going to just alleviate that pressure slightly on Theo. Dylan's running wide there in the back, coming through turn number 10. Theo's wide coming out of turn number 11. The race leader Morris leading Jakes up through turn number 3. Out of turn number 4 down the back straight. Jakes not letting Marius get away just yet. Through the inner loop. Jakes is slightly tighter, making use of those curbs. We just check in with the 3rd and 4th place drivers. That's Jacques Racing and that Ferrari. Christopher getting that rear very loose, coming through turn number 6. As mentioned before, that is quite a tricky corner. It is braking away from you. You're braking on a downhill, and the curbs on that outside definitely do not do you any favors. Let's move the camera to Mal Jacques, and he's really putting pressure on Ashley. Both drivers are coming through turn number 9. But we can still see how close this pack currently is. That we're still able to see the lead pack ahead of us. Oh, the Jacques gone a little bit wide. That's definitely going to impact on his efforts to try and close his gap down on Ashley. Down the hill to turn 1. Dylan has a little lockup, trying to get himself closer to Durkee to find a way to pass him. But Durkee is staying cool, calm and collective, and Dylan's the one who's starting to feel that pressure, because he knows that there's a train of 4 cars behind him. Into the outer loop. Durkee's car's very smooth and stable, while Dylan in the background, you can see how that rear let go and Dylan slid it through the second part of that corner. Back to the race leaders in. Morris has moved over to the inside. He might have picked himself up a little slowdown penalty, But Jakes is now their new race leader. Let's bring up the positions. So here on lap number 5, Jake leads with Mario second, Jacques Racing's in third with Christopher fourth. Theo, he's in 5th place with Dirkie in 6th. Dylan's up to 7th. That is Ashley in 8th. Mal Jacques is in 9th with Shane in 10th. Ross 11th, Stephen 12th, Ben in 13th place, and Marshall down in 14th position. Let's pick up the action back with Ashley and Jacques. These two really starting to have a very interesting battle here. Out of turn number 7, back up the hill. And that's Dylan moving to the inside, and that is Christopher, which means something's gone wrong. Let's go have a look. So Christopher coming out of turn 6 loses that rear, bounces back into the track, just misses Theo. That's Dirkie going off track to get around him. Dylan will stick his nose in here at turn number 8. They now side by side, turn number 7, sorry. Side by side back, coming up the hill towards turn number 8. Christopher trying to do some scare tactics, but Dylan is not phased into the braking zone, into turn number 8. Dylan will now make that move stick. We now jump back to Ashley and Jacques, and they can see that there's a very badly limping Christopher. So that's Ashley will move to the inside of turn number 10. Christopher will go wide. Jacques has to hit the brakes. Out through turn number 11, Christopher peels off to go get that damage repaired. Christopher essentially goes from 4th place to the back of the field. We'll jump on the bumper of Shane with him coming through turn number 2. Following Mal Jacques, and just ahead of him that is Ashley. Now through turn number 4. Onto the back straight towards the inner loop. 300 meter mark on the brakes. Nice straight line through there for Shane. Staying well off those curbs, not losing their traction. Shane drifting a little bit wide here, coming out of turn number 5. Now hard on the brakes down to turn 6. You can see how the track just falls away from you. He's managed to keep that nice and tight while the Jacques just clips the outside. 150 meters on the brakes through turn number 7 on the power early. There's a nice camber just to pull you through. On the back section, what is called the boot of the track. 300 meters on the brakes. There was Ashley, looked like he had locked up there. Now into turn number 9, a tricky corner as well. You can see Jacques just edging out towards the outside, nearly touching the wall. Jacques wide touching the grass. Little touch of the brakes down into turn number 11 and back towards the start finish line. Back to our race leader, Jake's coming through turn number 3. Getting very close to that outside wall. Let's look at the current positions. Jake's leads with Morris just behind him. Jacques Racing, he's in 3rd with Theo in 4th place. Dirkie, he's in 5th with Dylan up to 6th. Ashley still battling with Jacques in 7th and 8th, and Shane's in 9th place with Ross in 10th. Stephen, he is in 11th place with Christopher down in 12th. Ben finds himself in 13th place with Marshall down in 14th position. We head back to 3rd and 4th place, and both Jacques and Theo having a really good drive here. Jacques being extremely unfortunate in this championship, having disconnected out of some really good positions. I'm sure he's hoping for a good place. I just needed to mention something that caught my eye. Ben currently down in 13th place. You can see that his lap time is actually matching the likes of Jakes and Morris. So should that not have been that first corner incident, things could have been a lot different. That's 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th place. Jacques going a bit wide. That's him up against the wall. Shane just narrowly missing him. Jacques going to have to buckle down, put in those good laps again, because he's just undone all the good work he's been doing chasing Ashley. Jakes exits out of turn and number 6, and we can see that the gap between himself and Morris is opening just ever so slightly. But this race is still far from over. Jakes exiting out of turn number 7, back up the hill. We jump back to Dylan in 6th place, taking a little bit too much of that curve. That's going to push him wide. Pretty sure that would have given Dylan a time penalty. And just behind Dylan, that is Ashley with his lights on. Then Shane and Moljak. Up through turn number 3. Jump on board with Moljak chasing down Shane. You see he's got a great run coming down the back straight. Jacques will move to the outside. Shane goes very defensive. Moljak not being able to capitalize on Shane having to compromise his line going into the inner loop. Lock up there by both Ashley and by Shane. Jacques trying to use as much of this track as possible. But Shane really defending his line well, not allowing Moljak to come at him, put himself in a position to overtake. You can see that rear just kicked a little bit there for Shane, but Jacques wasn't able to take advantage. Oh, a little bit of oversteer going into the off the brakes there. So Dylan leads that battle. That's Ashley currently in 7th place. There's 8th and 9th. Dylan is wide once again coming through the last corner. He's definitely going to have to fix that, or else it is going to start costing him time. We'll lock up for Dylan going into turn 1. Race leader Jakes currently on lap number 12. Coming through turn number 6. Jakes leads with Morris in 2nd, then it is Jacques racing. Theo's in 4th with Durkee 5th. Dylan, he's in 6th place with Ashley 7th, Moljak 8th, Shane 9th, Ross is 10th, Stephen 11th, Ben is in 12th with Christopher 13th, and Marshall down in 14th place. Jacques still trying to close down Shane. But Shane is definitely not reciprocated, but Shane has gone wide. That's definitely going to impact his speed coming through turns 2 and 3. Jacques definitely going to get that straight line speed advantage. Shane moving over to take his slowdown penalty, and Jacques taking that place back. Dylan starting to get a lot of pressure here by Ashley, getting himself in the middle of the track, going through the inner loop. Dylan very sideways through the second part of that corner. But Ashley now needing to just back off slightly. So Dylan has been able to fend off that attack for now. Quick check-in with our race leaders, and Jakes and Morris are still very much at it. Jakes still not being able to pull away from Morris, with these guys matching each other lap for lap. It's definitely going to create a very interesting conclusion to this race. Ashley's much closer this time, coming through turn number 3. He's going to be able to slot in behind Dylan and get the slipstream advantage. Dylan moves to the inside to try and defend that inside line. Ashley goes around the outside. That's compromised Dylan's entry. Dylan goes wide. Ashley has an incredible overtake. Great move there by Ashley coming into the inner loop. Just have a little look further while Ashley has started to open a gap ahead of Dylan. It is now Jacques and Shane that are starting to close the gap on Dylan here. You can see Dylan starting to struggle with that rear. Just not being able to get that power down. The rear has been swirling all around. Shane relentlessly not giving up on Jacques. Out of turn number 10, Shane is on the grass. Oh, there's Shane having a little spin. Just want to see what happened there. You can see Shane's on the grass, on the brakes. The rear just doesn't have the grip, and around he goes. So somebody who hasn't had much camera time of this race is definitely Dirkie. He's got himself in 4th position. He's got about a 3-second gap to Jacques ahead and a 4-second gap to Ashley behind. Nice, comfortable race there for Dirkie. All he needs to do is just bring it home. Then our 3rd place driver, can see that is the leaders just ahead of him. But Jacques Racing are not being able to close up that 3 seconds that the leaders have over him. But he does need to be cautious, because you can see in the background, approximately 3 seconds behind, that is Theo in that Porsche. Jacques really looking for a great result here. So that is the 4th place man, Theo, having qualified in 4th place, finds himself in 4th place. So I'm sure he's going to be happy with his current position. Jake's in through turn number 2. Up for the curb on turn number 3. That's put him into the wall. That's going to slow him down this back straight. There's Morris right behind him. He's been waiting for a moment like this. Morris now goes to the outside on the back straight. Morris moves into 1st place. So Morris will once again take the lead of this race. Let's look at these current positions. So Morris leads with Jake 2nd, Jacques Racing in 3rd with Theo in 4th, Dirkie he's 5th with Ashley in 6th, Dylan down in 7th place, Mal Jacques is 8th with Shane in 9th, Ross is in 10th with Ben in 11th, Stephen 12th, Christopher down in 13th place, and Marshall rounding off the end of the field in 14th. Just chasing Dylan as he comes through the inner loop. And see Mal Jacques starting to close him down, and as you see the sun starting to go down, that's going to be changing the current temperatures. Brake calipers glowing as Dylan goes through turn number 6. We'll watch them coming into turn number 7, and Jacques deciding to drive a very stealth mode, no lights on. Jacques definitely starting to close this gap down on Dylan. Up into turn number 8, the hill. Jacques goes wide, that's going to allow Dylan a little bit more breathing space up through turn number 9. The rear is loose once again. Dylan definitely fighting with all his might to keep this car on the track. Through the last corner, Dylan will have fought another lap. But now we go half a lap later, and Dylan is still squiggling with his car. Again up through turn number 9. The car is loose once again. Jacques still choosing to have his stealth mode and no lights on. Into the last corner. Dylan hits the curb, but manages to keep it off the wall. And across the line we can look at the current positions. Morris still leads with Jake 2nd, Jacques Racing 3rd, then it's Theo, Dirkie, Ashley, Dylan, Mal Jacques, Shane, Ross. That is Ben, Christopher, Stephen, then Marshall. Dylan definitely fighting very hard. And it is at this moment that Jacques decides to turn off his stealth mode. In through the inner loop. Dylan is sideways. Jacques is stable. Now down the hill towards turn 6. Just love the way those brake calipers just light up. in through turn number 7. Dylan's rear lets go, that's oversteered, he's got up onto the curb. Jacques looking for a way, Dylan moves to the inside to defend. Jacques will have to go outside. Into turn number 8. Dylan is able to defend that attack by Jacques. Jacques having a little look to the inside, but too far away to make a move. Towards turn number 10. Jacques still trying to find a way to get past Dylan. Dylan is a lot smoother out of turn number 11. We just have a little look because now Ashley's been able to close this gap down on Durkee. So this is now the battle for 5th and 6th position. But Durkee will be able to hold off the attack by Ashley. Back to the battle between Dylan and Jacques. Jacques' GT40 are definitely taking advantage of the straight line speed. Down through turn number 2. Back up the hill to turn number 3. And that, guys, is unfortunately where the replay ends. So the final results are as follows. Marius manages to keep it in front to take the win, with Jakes having to settle for 2nd position. Jacques Racing rounds off the podium in 3rd, and Theo will come home in 4th place, with Durkee a very respectable 5th. And it is Ashley that makes a mistake on turn number 6, allowing both Dylan and Jacques to get ahead of him. But due to Dylan's 5-second penalty, Jacques finishes in 6th place, Ashley will come home in 7th, Dylan will come home in 8th, and it will be Shane in 9th place. Ross will finish in 10th, with Ben in 11th place. Christopher will come home in 12th. Stephen will finish in 13th, and Marshall will bring it home in 14th position. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you did like this video, give it a like, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to hit that notification button. We will be racing next week once again at Road America. The rain will be there, so it's definitely going to make for some interesting racing. Don't forget, this series is brought to you by Thrustmaster and Mettlestate. All the details are in the description. So until then, thanks for watching, yos.